Hi everybody. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you that on the Before the Echo channel that Josh has, we're running a live podcast. We call it Thursday Night Live, where you can get on to YouTube and watch us live do a podcast and talk back and forth with us and converse, and we have some of the viewers call in. So if you haven't, subscribe to Before the Echo channel as well as this channel so that you can see those lives while they're going on or just watch them afterwards. I think you might enjoy that. In this scouting trip, we're going to look at an area where I heard some rumors about a big buck. I went in and hunted it in season when I found out about this buck. I got trail cam pictures from people. I heard about the buck. I got a good setup last spring and went in this fall, and I think I had an opportunity. Didn't quite make out for sure if it was the right buck, but I didn't get him. Spooked him, and I was going to go in deeper and hunt it more, but didn't have all the intel I needed of that particular marsh. So I backed out, let it rest a little bit while I was hunting another property and waiting for the right wind. And on the other property I tagged out, so I had no tag for over there. So I've been patiently waiting for this spring and for some time to get out there and scout. So me and Rick went out there the other day and scouted, and I'd like to take you along on that scouting trip. I'd like you to see how I analyze the sign I'm seeing. And I did something different in this video. Usually, if I analyze something and then I go a little further and I find something better that kind of says, well, now I got to rethink what I thought over there, I cut what I thought over there. So you don't see that and get confused. But in this video, I'm going to leave that analyzation in there. Looking at the footage while I'm editing, I'm thinking, yeah, people should see this because they should see the way I think about these spots as I walk through them. So as you're watching this, think about, I might analyze something and say, well, there's the tree, here's the bed, here's how I'm going to set up, here's how I'm going to hunt. But 100 yards down, I might be changing my mind, or 50 yards down, or maybe even 20 yards down. So kind of watch how it goes like that. And look at how I analyze every little section as I get to it. I think you'll enjoy the video. Let me know below any comments, questions, anything you want to know about the video or about the scouting. The coordinates, well, of course I'm not going to give you the coordinates, but anything else you want to know, put them in the comments below. Look at this groove in here. Just cut into there from going back up and down, up and down. It's like a ½ inch deep.
Wow.
You see old scarring along here. So now, this tree, if I remember correct, wasn't this used last year?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a small area, small public property, real tiny. And it's surrounded by homes, so anything that's living in here is living in here. And what I really wanted to know is if the buck was still in here, because I believe there was one big buck in here last year. And a friend of mine got some trail cam pics of him, and it was a huge buck, 200 class maybe. With a lot of junk, non-typical junk. So I really wanted to make sure he didn't get killed. So the first thing I wanted to do was find one of his rubs before I really spent a lot of time in here. So I knew we'd run into his rubs along this transition if he's still alive. Now that's no guarantee. He could have made this and then get killed. This is an older rub, but it's a good start. And I think we should run into some more of his rubs up ahead. I should have, but I didn't film it. We found a rub back further. It was on a pretty good sized tree. But when I got close to it and looked at it, it was real low to the ground, telling me it was a younger deer. And it didn't have any high tine marks or anything like this does. The big grooves in it. I mean, look at that. That's, waist high to center. Anytime you're waist high or higher, I'd like to see it, the center of it be up here. But that's obviously a big buck, and I think it's our buck. You can see some real heavy, look over here, real heavy cutting in here. There and here, and where we looked at over here, those grooves, look at this one. Just groove worn into there. See that? When you see that, that has to be that it has big burrs on its bases, and they're just grooving in there and cutting. And it takes some force to do that, some neck force. It takes a older animal to do that. That ain't a 1 or 2 year old. Look at this here. There's where a tine jammed into here, way up here. That's quite a bit above the rubbing, right? So, I mean, some of these marks are harder to see because they've dried out, but you can see some in here all over the place. Yeah, right here there's some too. Some marking. Yeah, this has been done for
years before.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is last year. This was rubbed too, and there was this old center here. That's from years and years and years of this.
Yeah.
So, where we're at right now is we're right on the transition of forest and swamp. Well, actually, we're on swamp and marsh, and then the swamp goes a little ways and turns into forest. But this interior transition here, where it turns into these reeds and cattails in a little bit, this is where I think the bedding's going on. So following this transition is really going to get us on that bucks. Now, we really scouted this already. So we're going to go through what we already scouted, and we wanted to see that this buck was still alive. But then we're going to get up, and we're going to go further and look at some stuff we didn't see last year, where I got some suspicion that buck might be hiding. In case we don't get him on those primary first hunts, I want to be able to hunt this area down. I don't think we got it effectively scouted last year. There's some stuff that we're missing. So, let's hit it.
Stop. Oh, this is how I cracked the last one on that stupid video.
There's a nice little spear sticking up to get you in the guts there.
Oh yeah. Didn't even think of that.
Hey, you're doing pretty good. Like the way I just float across there? You did good. You did good.
Could have went either way there.
Man, these trails are pretty heavy. This is all deer traffic. Wow. We followed a point in here, and when we got in here, we found this little tree line in the cattails that you really can't see from the shore very well. And we noticed that it also connects to the next point down that had a lot of sign on it last time we were out here. So a couple of the good points that have sign on them come into here. Now there's no sign in here of bucks. I'm not seeing rubs at all, but I am seeing a lot of beds, but the beds look old. I am seeing some fresh sign, like we got these heavy trails here, and if I look close, I can see some. I just saw a hair floating here a second ago. So there's some hairs floating in the water, so there's been deer out here. But really, this is kind of low cover, and these deer are not in here later in the season, I think. So I think the reason there ain't rub sign in here real heavy is this is more early season bedding. But these trails are pretty heavily used, so it's got some interest in mine. But really, how to hunt it. You can hunt it where they come out.
Yeah.
But I do think that there'd be bucks running through here from the rut, but I don't see any rut sign, really. It's kind of hard to say. Early season maybe, but this does connect that mainland to the mainland over there, and I have to think they're using this travel route here in rut.
I think it's a
They're just saying a lot of rubbing trees in here. Everything's dead ash trees. But I'm really shocked there ain't at least one rub in here. But there are at the points. That big rub we just filmed is right on the mouth of coming in here. Yeah. So a guy could get in here and do a little bit of hunting, especially rut. You get away with a little bit more rut. I could get in one of these dead ash trees, you know, real low, and I could cover this because it's low cattails. And you catch them off guard once, you get away with it. But that's basically the only tree I could get in, and it might not even be there come hunting season. It might fall down. It's in pretty bad condition. But I think it'll still be here next year. But every one of these little trees, if you see them in the background, has beds underneath. But those beds are in open areas, open sun, but they wouldn't be early season. These cattails would be nestled around them. So I'm saying they're bedding there in September. And that's why we're not seeing all the rubbing, I think. So I think there's a lot of bedding going on here in September.
You'd be dating a fat chick there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I wish it had some leaves. With leaves on that, I'd have no problem with it. But you get in there, you'd have to really just be part of the tree, you know, blend in with it.
Depends if it's dead or not, we don't know.
Well, I kill deer out of trees like that all the time. There's a reason they're out here. Nobody's hunting out here. You gotta find some way to hunt. You can't hunt from ground level. It's too high for that. But it is open enough that if you could just get 8 or 10 feet up, you could shoot over this stuff. And I mean, that's a real open area there, so that would work. They'd give you shooting on all the trails that come through here. Let's take a look at that really thick bush up on the point. These points usually have good bedding on them. So let's take a walk over there and take a look at like this bush here. See that?
Yep, I just pointed to it.
Let's see what we got up here. The trail kind of leads here. That is the end of this point, kind of. I think the trails probably go all the way to the main island over there. But this is the end of the point, so I'm really curious to see if there's a real good buck bed there and if we have any big rubs.
Okay.
I just walked along there, and there's really heavy trails along there too, and there's some beds under those trees, and then I came over here to meet you. This is probably the heaviest trail in here, would you say?
Yes.
There's a trail going in right there to that. There's a bed here. It's got old historical rubs on it. See that?
Yep.
Nothing fresh though. But I see old historical ones all over the place. So let's just follow these trails in here once. See what we have. Here. Bed right there. Oh, here you go. Let's slip back around the other way.
Okay.
We'll bust this all off. But there's a good bed back there. That looks like some really good bedding. Let's go see.
Oh yeah.
This is warm to the dirt. You know, here they got some shade and stuff. You know, again, no recent rubbing, but look at how old and dead these trees are. There's nothing to really rub. But look at this, these are worn.
Yeah.
This is getting used, and look at here.
Here?
Here's a fresh hair right in the bed. Fresh right on top of the leaves. See that? I don't know if the camera can make that out. That's a belly hair. Yeah, there's another one. There's a whole bunch of them in here. So, I mean, you got your beds right here. Yeah, this looks really good. It's just a matter of, you know, you have to trust that there's no sign. Now, hunting this would be hard, but if they're bedded right here, I think a guy could hunt them out of that tree we just looked at. The trouble is you're going to kick some deer.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably where the big buck is bedded. And looking at this coming in, there's two ways I looked at this. And Rick can back me up on this. When we're coming in here, I said they're either going to be bedding on the point over there or they're going to be bedding over here. I came over here kind of, and Rick went over there, and then we kind of met and then came this way. I really thought they'd be where I sent Rick, but they didn't turn out to be there. So it kind of forked. This is the other side, and I can see why, because it looks like the trails go on and connect to the next mainland, and there's good oaks over there. So I wouldn't doubt it if when those acorns are dropping, because those are isolated oaks. When they're dropping, I bet you there's a good one bedded in here going that way. I don't know how we're going to cut them off and that stuff, though. We probably have to cut them off right at the edge of the oaks. Early season, I think we could get them to go that far.
That
That's
far.
a long distance.
But after
That's 200
season
yards.
starts, I don't know how
But,
close.
you know, in thick, I think he'll go up to the edge of that and creep out right at dark.
Yeah.
You know, if there's open spots in between, I wouldn't think you would get that far in daylight. But that's, I mean, you've been in here. That's about the only oaks I've seen. Can you see them? Can you pick them up with the camera? All those oak trees over there?
One straight out that way?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so when I find a good bedding area, and I think this is good. I mean, I look at it and I can see the shapes of deer, and look at that bean shape, and he's laying here. That's a big bed, you know?
Yep.
And it's a big bed over here, and you can see the bean shape, you know? I think the smaller deer are kicking back further. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this bed, which is, I think, is the kingpin bed right on the point, and we're gonna follow these trails right out of here to those oaks and see where he pops out and look for a setup. Sound good?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, we only got 25 yards, and the beds we were just looking at are over there. And we got to this bush and saw a good bed over there, and then a bunch of spidering trails coming this way. And I can see there's a really good bed right in here too. And again, there's no rub. It's telling me early season, and they're probably working off those oaks and stuff. So I'm saying, you know, with these lower cattails and brush, I don't think they're bedding here. And look how open that is. Once this dries out, I don't think they're bedding here. So I think that's a September, maybe early October bedding, and that's why it's not rubbed like crazy. But man, that's, again, that is just, those beds are just beads. Looks like the entrance is right here. You can see some broken branches on here. Something's getting a rack through there, I would think. Like right there. But that's not real heavy. But man, there's some beds. Kind of worn through the dirt again. Bunch of deer poop in here with small poop. A couple little tine marks on here. Not much though. But that bed looks really cool up high. These turds are real small, like something little. There's a bunch of hair in this bed. Not a huge bed. Kind of starting to double think it because I really think that these trails would be busted open more if a big rack was going through here.
Yeah.
And then if I look, you come here a little closer. That don't look like the turds of a big animal.
No.
And there's different time frames when they're pooped. These are older than those, and these are even fresher. And they're all the same size. So I still say the bigger animals are laying over there. But this was an interesting spot again. Just keeps heading towards the oaks.
Could be doe bedding and the bucks are over there.
Yeah, I don't think this is doe bedding. I wouldn't doubt it if some does bedding here, but I don't think that's doe bedding.
Okay.
Does don't bed like that. So you might get one or two does that bed with a fawn in a spot like this, but this is buck bedding. I'm just saying it's probably more immature stuff. These beds don't look like they could hold a big buck. There ain't enough area for them, right? I mean, a big buck would need a spot like this.
Like
You'd
the
have
last
sticks
spot.
sticking in them, right? You don't see the bean there. You don't see the bean up there. That's a smaller area. This looks like a 1.5-year-old buck is laying here, honestly. And I would see signs of that rack coming through this brush. I mean, it's pretty much of a tangle till you get into these beds. This is going to be like a cave. When these leaves and stuff are in here in early season, this is a cave, like a shadow, you know? And there was a lot of bedding going on here. I mean, if you look at all these hairs. This whole bed is filled up with hairs. With that big belly hair there, right?
Oh yeah.
But look at the size of the bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not a big buck. A big buck would take a space like this. And he'd have to have a space for his rack during a spot. Not a big buck.
Move on.
Move on. Looks like we did find one good rub in the bedding area. But I think a big part of it is there's not much for living trees out here. They're all flooded out. But here's a good rub here. And that's waist high to the center. Broken branches in the background. And that's 12 inches back. So a little more evidence that that buck is actually living here. All right, so those beds we were looking at are right out here where those bushes are in there. Those trails come right through the brush to here, enter onto this oak island. Now looking around, one thing that's important is all that woods over there, we didn't find any oak trees. This is the only place we found oak trees. And we know there's some big bucks in here. And there's sign on this island. Now I'm not seeing a lot of rubs. I haven't been seeing a lot anywhere in here. But we are seeing, coming up out of there from those beds, here's a big scrape right here. And it's actually, if you look, it's got fresh tracks in it, fresh scratching. See the track there? It ain't a huge track. It's probably only a 1.5-year old buck, but he was in here working it. And that tells me that there's deer still using this. And this concentration of oaks really has me thinking.
Yeah.
Now, I know that this area gets a ton of duck hunting. And I came in here and hunted this 2 years ago after duck hunting had started. And there was duck hunters all around me in the grass and everything. They came up here, pulled boats in and
really?
stuff. So when these acorns are dropping early season, I think is the...
Before the duck hunters get here.
Yeah, hopefully we got a good acorn crop this year. We didn't last year.
Yeah, it sucked last year.
So, yeah, I'm excited about this. This looks good. I think this could be a setup right here.
I don't think a lot of people are getting here early season.
Yeah, we still got to look a little more. But for right now, I think we'll mark this spot as a setup.
Yep.
But we got a little marsh in here that's interior inside of the woods. I want to look at that, see if there's bedding in there. I'm kind of doubtful of it, but it's worth looking at. I mean, we're pretty close to a private residency, and it looks like there's some pressure coming in from him. But most people don't hunt that early in the season.
Right.
A little bigger track there. It's older though. You see that? A little bigger.
Yep.
But older. See the deer hair in it?
Yep.
There's the licking branch here and here. Both of them are broke. So now this is what 15 yards from the other scrape. Same trail where it comes out from the beds we saw, right? Get to here, come up here, and there's a scrape here. Licking branch. Old tracks again. There's another one right there. Look at that. Right here.
That scrape line going here.
Yeah, you can see where he scratched here too. Well, here's the scrape. So that's telling me that bucks are running that line.
Yes.
I'd have to think when these oaks are dropping, there's some good bucks in here. So, opening week right away, I think we got to figure out how to hunt this.
I agree.
Okay. Let's keep at it.
A lot more.
Here's another scrape here. This is a pretty good size one. And this one has a higher up licking branch. The branch is broken off better. That's some pretty big diameter branches. And they're higher up. They're head high for me, and I'm 6 foot tall. So one thing that's interesting is look at all this hair in here. You see all that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked that up. What I've seen quite often is that when does come in to mate with the bucks, they bed right in the scrapes. I've seen that often when you're hunting a scrape, a doe come bed right there, wait for the buck. And I'm willing to bet that's what happened here, because obviously a deer laid in that scrape and bedded there. But again,
Dude, I'm going to put myself on a limb here. I feel dumb because I've never heard that before.
I've seen it several times.
Where doe lays in the scrape.
Yeah, they wait for the buck. Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a nice scrape too. There's a fresh track here. Look at that. It's you just barely see it. You can make it out, but it's as big as my 4 fingers here. There's one side there and one side there. There's one here too. But you can tell this wasn't too long ago to the scrape.
Right.
Now, people always say, well, what does it matter if you find beds in the spring? I read that all the time when people say that. That's not where they're bedding when you hunt. We're not looking at beds in the spring. We're not looking at, what they're doing now. We're looking at the sign from last fall.
Right.
These scrapes and stuff are still here once the snow melts.
Yeah.
What is it, end of March, and this scrape is still here.
Yeah.
Still visible. The beds are still visible.
Because it was all frozen.
Yeah, those beds we were looking at out there that are coming up the trail, coming here,
Right.
aren't being used now. But they're still there from hunting season. This is cool stuff. We're gonna get in some deer here this fall.
I hope it's not that hunted back here.
I'm really, what I want to do is get set up in a way that I can shoot anything that's getting to Rick before it gets to him, but that he can watch it and see it and experience it.
Experience you shooting something?
Sure.
I've already experienced
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's right. Just kidding, just kidding. We'd like to see Rick get one too. Especially a nice public land one with your new Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That Nexus is going to get one this year.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's hit it. Okay, we just stepped out of the scrape. It's right behind Rick. And I get here and I see an old rub there and an old rub here. And this rub here was a big one. It's a perennial rub. It's right on the trail going to that scrape, right? And we know from past experience that these bucks repeat the same things year after year after year, right? Well, here's a heavy trail here going out. And one thing I noticed is there's a little point formed here going out into the marsh. So I'm willing to bet there's a trail coming in off that point, and that's the trail we need to cover. That's going to be the buck trail. Even these little points that you can hardly see like that, that tends to be where the bucks come in. So I want to take a look at that and see what we can see from there and see if there's a good setup there.
Cool.
We'll just follow this trail. This is a pretty heavy trail too.
Yeah.
Here's another old rub. Now again, and there too, see it?
Yep.
Now again, these aren't fresh, but what do we know? Wasn't a good acorn year last year. These rubs are about 2 years old when there was a good acorn drop. I'm starting to like this a lot. Hopefully there ain't a stand sitting up here. It's kind of an obvious spot to me. Now look at here. You see where the deer have been browsing in here
Yep.
quite heavy? These are all snipped off. This one's snipped off fresh. It's still green. See that? And these ones are older. See some deer tracks in the mud sunk in. And voila, what do you know? Right off the point,
Yep.
right out into the cattails. So my bet is it goes right back to those beds because there's a couple trails that lean this way that we didn't cover and the other trails are right there. So
There's a limb
you
bust.
can just look at the trail. It's going right to this bed. So here it goes, out here. And there's the trees that the beds were under, the big beds, right? That's where we found the big beds.
Yep.
So now, you get the point where that big sign didn't have to be right at the beds. We come out here and here's the big sign. They're getting to here, you know? But man, you'd have to shoot them right about here to get daylight movement. It's a distance.
Yeah.
But right in here someplace we got to have a setup. So now what we got to do is we got to look at what the primary winds are. And I'll have to figure out which direction's which. We'll have a couple setups in here. Right here though is where we need to hunt. So I'd get them right as they come up onto this dry land here.
West is that way.
That way?
Yes.
So we're going to be on this side of the trail most likely.
Yep.
So probably right in one of these trees over here. There's a couple good ones right behind you. So like maybe up into that leaning one right over there, you could cover this whole area here, and you'd have good cover. You could let your wind just go over that crap.
Yep.
I like that. So we got to mark this spot.
Yep.
So right behind Rick is that point. It goes out like this. We got a divot here, and we got another point out there. And that point does go out into cattails and stuff, and I can see a trail coming in along there. Now, I don't know if something big's going to show up on that or not. I don't see any good bedding brush in there, but there could. There could be something bedding in there. Comes in to these oak trees, just like this one. I mean, two different bedding areas. So I think I kind of don't want my wind blowing down that trail. So when I came in here to hunt, I would be looking at what's the wind doing of the day. I'm not picking a tree right now. I'm looking at trees. What could I do? So if you come behind me here, here's that point, right? And the bedding we were looking at is right over there. This trail goes right to there. Those rubs come in here from 2 years ago. Scrapes are all along here, right? Right over there. There's also some travel that comes straight to where we're at out of there. I see this trail coming out of here. A westerly wind would put our wind right through there. Wouldn't hit that deer, wouldn't hit these deer. A guy could get in this tree right here and cover this whole thing.
Yep.
But now if we got a northerly wind, I would really much rather than having all this tangle around me, be in a tree like this one here, where it's kind of open, or this tree over here where it's kind of open, and just be able to cover this whole area. I really like this tree, this big mess of a tree.
Yeah.
Just get in there and be able to cover to that edge, hit the swamp edge, and hit the swamp edge over here if it was a north wind. So I think you got some options here. But my point is that you don't pick out the exact tree right now. You pick out, well, where could I be, different options, and when you come in here, you hunt your way in, and from a distance back here, you're okay, what's the wind doing exactly? Where can I get to? Where's it going to blow to? But you know in advance where the deer could be coming from. And with that knowledge, then you look at the wind of the day and set up when you come in.
Sometimes we get an east wind early in the season.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've actually, the last few years, been getting a lot of east winds for how rare they're supposed to be. It's been pretty common. All right. Let's take a look at the point there and see where this trail goes.
Okay.
So now we're on that secondary point, and it was a good thing we looked at this, because I was thinking that trail was going out into the marsh, and it's not. It's just kind of dropping into water over here.
Right.
But there's a bunch of red brush in here, some heavy grass and stuff, and it might not look like much now, but I guarantee you in early season when we're looking at hunting this is probably pretty thick. And if you look, there's some pounded out beds in here. I mean, this is what it looks like if there's no deer laying on it. This is what it looks like if there's deer laying on it right here. Here's a bed that's pretty pounded right here. See that? And right behind it here, you can see a historical rub and a historical rub there. And beds all over the place. And the one thing about these beds, though, is for the most part, they're just in circular fashion all over in here. There could be some bucks bedding in here, but I think this is more doe bedding. Well, obviously there's some bucks bedding in here because I'm seeing historical rubs all over the place. But not too many giant ones. There's one real big one on the end here, but it could be a buck marking does. But the reason this is important to know is this is pretty close to our tree.
Yeah.
About 70 yards, 75 yards. So it makes how we get in here important, how we get to that tree. Because now we got to worry a little bit more about getting spotted or heard. Now I think when they're sitting in this grass, I don't think they're seeing us because this grass is going to be too high for them to see out of. But any noise, they're catching us. So that might be a good spot to hunt on a good windy day or rainy day when there's no noise. So a good thing to keep in mind. We'll have to put that in our notes.
Yeah.
Because if we're breaking branches or crushing stuff coming in here,
They're gone.
they're gone, yeah. So really, we're going to be sneaking right up on these deer. Those deer are far enough out that they're not going to hear us. But good to know. So now we got, and that's why all the scrapes are there. Because both bedding areas, the deer are meeting in one spot. Yeah, the more I look at this, there's got to be bucks bedding here too. It looks like a doe bedding area, but this is right up against a backdrop with the wind blowing this way, all right?
Sure.
And then you look, two rubs right here. I mean, they're historical. And then you look over here, a bunch of rubs right here, historical. But remember, we didn't have oaks last year, right? Or acorns. You can see scarring on, even the bigger trees have scarring on it from past years, right? And I saw a really big historical one over here. See that one? Here's a historical one right here. See that?
Yep.
So there's a real big one right here.
Yeah, it's a few years old.
Yeah, probably about 2 or 3. It ain't that old. So what's interesting is, now come over here. These are the trees we were looking at.
Yep.
So we really got to sneak in here. So maybe even tend to be a little further that way if we can get a good wind going this way. Now I like an east wind even more. You know what I mean? So, or north. What would north do? North would be pretty good. So some sort of north wind and get right into here I might be a little further back, though. I can see a tree a little further back now. Let's go look at it. I like this. If we can get into here, the right wind, we wouldn't even need a stand. We could just stand in there, I think.
Yeah, look at that
Nice
little
flat spot
platform
there.
right inside there.
Yeah, we could just stand in there and shoot out of there, maybe. I'll have to get in there and see. But what I like is I can slide through this grass. This is a lower area, and half my body is shielded. Get to here. This is 60, 70 yards from those beds. But if we come in from a boat and we come in from that direction with a wind going like this, I think we're good. We could actually get into one of these trees too, though. I could be in that straight tree there. I'd be happy. I think we could shoot everything out of that.
Oh yeah,
Right there.
that one right.
Right there, the straight one. But let's see, if there's no stand needed here, I'll like this one even more. But I don't know if we can shoot out of that. It looks kind of tangly.
I think it'd be perfect. There's even a spot you can stand right in there.
Oh, this is perfect.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the new beast stand. We should sell this. Oh yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah.
This is. It is absolutely perfect. I can shoot through there. I can shoot through there. Yeah, this is perfect. So this is a good blind right here. We don't need a stand. We can put that in our notes.
Yep.
We just got to get to this tree. And I think even though this is a little more risky than that tree for distance, sliding into this would be less risky than putting a stand up in that. for being
Agreed.
seen.
Totally agreed.
So we'd stay low under their sight vision. This is a good spot. Yeah, you can get up here with like nothing. It's
Right.
a totally flat spot here. Just got a couple sticks out of here and then we're good. And this is ready to rock. Yeah, you can shoot all the way around in here. This is perfect. Give me a camera one. So right here is what we're standing on. We got a nice little flat spot in here. I don't know how well you can see that, but I can literally shoot right through here. I can shoot right through there. I can shoot right through here, right through there. The big buck bedding we were looking at earlier in the swamp is right there where those bushes are. The other bedding is right on that point right there. And everything's going to meet right here. So if we get the wind coming in like this, I think we're good. What do you think?
Well, if you did have to come in here, I mean, I think the big stuff's going to come from there. Even if you had to
I think
pull something out of here, you could still come in here and hunt something big.
I think there's big stuff coming from over there too. I think my first impression there wasn't, but looking at those old rubs, I think there is.
Okay.
I think all that sign though is from the first week or two of the season.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's that side too. So I think this is an early season. And with all that sign, I think there's a good chance of getting a shot at a deer here,
Oh yeah.
like opening day. As long as nobody else gets in here. And this is kind of hard to get into unless you live around here, because it's boat access only really, or you got to walk right through the deer. So we just sat over there for quite a while with the camera off, hee-hawing about what wind direction would be perfect and stuff. And we're looking at, well, we could get away with straight north, we could get away with straight west, and come in here to a point, and there's a spot we could hunt with a straight north, and there's a spot we could hunt with a straight west. But then we were like, well, if there's any kind of easterly wind, we could hunt this.
Right.
But then we got back here, and that bedding point is over here, the one that's close.
Yep.
And you look up this little high ridge here, and there's every single tree that's smaller than this has a historical rub on it going straight back to that bedding area. You can just see every one of them. Every one of them has it.
No
Small
longer
trees, all the way
can we
back to
come
the
in with
bedding
the
area.
east wind.
So if we came in here on an east wind, then deer would get you. So I'm really liking a north wind now and hunting over there, letting it blow up that way. Then we can cover everything. And you know, you know, you look at how much we put into thought into this.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about when we do road trips and we go out there and we guess, right?
Yes,
And you see why we're so much luckier on the hunts that we have pre-planned. I mean, you didn't end up in the right spots on road trips because this is exactly where I'd end up.
Right.
But you know, getting an exact right tree and stuff would be hard.
Road trips, we wouldn't get this much
Intel.
knowledge.
Yeah, you don't have this much intel beforehand. But we fall back on this intel on the road trips and remember, okay, there could be bedding on that point. There could be, you know.
Sure.
So, but interesting. So now we know pretty much north wind is what I'm really looking for. But I get away with it absolutely straight west.
Yes.
And either one of them makes a good access from boat coming in.
True that.
Yeah, this is an isolated area you need a boat to get to. Take a kayak up that river. All right, let's keep walking. Now we're getting way out there. We're not finding much deer sign. But what's interesting is when we got out here, there were a couple tornadoes came through here last summer and end of summer before. One of them hit a friend of mine's house. But ever since we've been finding debris out in these swamps of houses and stuff. And I thought this was interesting. We just found this door laying out here. We are, I mean, a long ways from anywhere somebody could get out here to put garbage.
Right.
You can kind of see the dents in here from the debris hitting it or the hail or something. And what's interesting is it's still got the lockbox on it. And if you shake it, you can hear there's a key in it. So the key's still in it. That's interesting. You got a feel for whoever's house that was.
Obviously, it was leveled.
Yeah, there was an area not far from here where a whole subdivision got leveled in that tornado. So I'm sure this is part of it. As long as we don't start finding bodies, I'm good.
Yeah.
So we're going back through that bedding area coming back because where we're looking to hunt, actually it's really remote. We have to, the only way to get through there is to go through all this nasty water and then this bedding area and get back here unless we take a boat up a river, which is what we're going to do to hunt it. But looking at this, you know, all this deer sign here, there's bushes and stuff in here all over the place with bedding underneath it. And all these trails go into those oaks. If you think about it, those deer can't go this way. So they go that way, and that's where all the hunters are. I mean, there's a parking lot over there, there's a parking lot over there. All those hunters are hunting right along that edge. That's where we're seeing all the tree stands and everything else. So those people are standing right there. Those deer here they're bedding here, are getting up and they're going that way. And that's the way to get to the oaks and everything else. So what we have to do is go around them to get over there. Anybody coming in from the public side would have to walk through the deer to set up behind them.
Exactly.
So good setup. I think we got a nice spot over there.
I like it.
Yeah. Now let's call this a wrap before it gets dark on us.
Yeah.
And take the long hike out of here.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks for watching the show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still hanging on this far, hit the subscribe button for me. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. And for those of you wanting to support us a little more, look below the video. There's some t-shirts down there. That money goes to us and helps us with editing and stuff. So thank you. We'll see you again next time.